Ask most solo riders why they love riding alone, and you'll get the same answer every time. It's peaceful, nobody's talking, I just get to think. That sounds right. It's also missing the real reason. Scientists who study being alone have found something most people don't expect, and it has nothing to do with peace and quiet. It's about something specific your brain does the moment you're actually alone, not just quiet next to someone, not just riding in a pack where nobody's talking, truly alone. And once you see what that actually does to your brain, riding solo starts to look like a completely different activity than riding in a group ever will. Here are 5 hidden psychological benefits of riding a motorcycle alone, backed by real research, the kind almost nobody in the riding world talks about. And once you understand what's actually happening in your brain out there, you'll never think about a solo ride the same way again.
Benefit 1. The alone switch. Here's something most people have never heard about their own brain. Researchers who study solitude found that being alone does something specific to your emotions. It doesn't just calm you down, it turns the volume down on big feelings altogether, the bad ones and the good ones. In one study, people who spent time completely alone felt less angry, less anxious, but also less excited. Their emotions leveled out, almost like someone reached over and turned the whole dial down a notch. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. This only happened when people were truly alone. When a second person was in the room, even someone silent, even someone who never said a word, the effect disappeared completely. Their brain still acted like it had company. That's the detail that matters for riding. A quiet group ride, where nobody's talking, does not give you this. Riding alone does. Not because it's quieter, because your brain treats another person being near you as information, even if that person never opens their mouth. Take the person away, and something in your nervous system actually shifts. That's not a mood boost. That's your brain switching into a completely different setting the second you're truly on your own. Think about how often you're around people without saying much, at work, at home, even riding 2 feet behind a buddy's back tire. Your brain still counts that as company. Riding solo is one of the only ordinary moments in a normal week where it doesn't. Benefit 2. The choice effect. The second benefit is stranger because it means the benefit isn't really about being alone at all. It's about choosing to be alone. In the same research, people only felt calmer and more relaxed when they picked solitude for themselves. When people ended up alone by accident, or because nobody else was free, the calming effect didn't show up the same way. Same amount of time alone, different result, just because of how they got there. Here's why that matters for you. If you ride alone because your friends bailed or because nobody had time this weekend, your brain doesn't necessarily treat that the same way as riding alone on purpose. The benefit isn't found in the aloneness itself, it's found in the decision. And here's the detail researchers point out. You don't need to be an introvert for this to work. People who love people, who thrive in groups, get the same benefit from a solo ride as long as it's something they actually chose. Riding alone isn't a personality type, it's a choice your brain rewards, no matter what kind of person you are. That's not a benefit for loners, that's a benefit for anyone willing to choose it on purpose. It also explains why the same ride can feel completely different 2 weekends in a row. One weekend you picked it, the next it was just what was left after everyone else canceled. Same road, same bike, different brain. Benefit 3. The full load brain. The third benefit comes down to simple math. When you ride with other people, the thinking gets split up without you even noticing. Someone else is watching the road ahead. Someone else notices the exit coming up. Someone else is half tracking the group behind you. The mental work gets shared, quietly, the whole ride. Ride alone, and none of that gets shared. Every decision, every check of the mirror, every read on the car ahead lands on you and only you. Nobody catches what you miss. Researchers who study this call it something close to full brain training. Every single system your mind uses, memory, planning, spotting danger, tracking where you are, working all at once with nobody to lean on. That sounds tiring. It's actually the opposite. Your brain doesn't get worn down by this kind of full-load thinking. It gets sharper. This is the same reason people say a solo hike or a solo drive through a new city leaves them feeling clear-headed in a way a group trip never quite does. Nobody's carrying part of the load for you, so your brain has to actually show up completely for the whole ride, start to finish.
That's not extra pressure. That's your brain finally being allowed to run the whole show by itself. Now think about how most people picture someone who rides alone. Distant, antisocial, avoiding people. That's the assumption, but none of the research points that way. Every study so far points somewhere completely different, toward someone whose brain is doing more, not less, the moment nobody else is around. The last two benefits go even deeper. One of them explains why riding alone might work better than almost any other way people try to be alone, including the ones therapists usually recommend. Benefit 4. The real brain scan. This next one comes from actual scientists, not theory. A team from UCLA hooked riders up to brain sensors and measured their brains for real while they rode, while they drove a car, and while they just sat still. Not a survey, not a guess, actual brain activity recorded in real time. They found the riders' brains got noticeably better at picking up small changes around them, sounds, movement, anything unexpected. At the same time, their stress hormones dropped in a very specific way. It wasn't just less stress, it was a shift toward a hormone balance scientists connect to being more resilient under pressure, long after the ride was over. Here's the detail most people miss. These riders weren't in a group, they were riding solo, on their own bike, on a normal road. The brain changes scientists measured happened during solo riding, not group riding. Nobody has run this same test on a pack of riders talking to each other through headsets, but the read is clear either way. Being alone on a bike, focused, engaged, with nobody to distract you, is doing real, measurable work inside your skull. That's not a feeling, that's a brain scan. And it's worth remembering the next time someone tells you a solo ride is just a way to pass a Saturday morning. Benefit 5. The boredom trap you skip. Here's the last one, and it explains why riding alone might beat almost every other form of alone time people try. Being alone with your own thoughts sounds relaxing. In reality, researchers keep finding the opposite. Just sitting alone with nothing to do is often uncomfortable. Your mind starts circling the same worries over and over. Most people avoid true alone time for exactly this reason, not because they hate themselves, but because unstructured alone time tends to turn into overthinking fast, and nobody enjoys that. Riding alone skips that trap completely. You're alone, but you're not doing nothing. The road gives your mind something to hold on to, the next corner, the next gear, the car ahead. That structure is what keeps solo alone time from turning into a spiral. This is the real reason a solo ride can feel more clearing than sitting alone in a quiet room ever does. You get everything solitude offers without the part where your brain gets stuck replaying the same 3 worries for an hour. The bike is doing the job meditation apps spend years trying to teach people. That's not luck. That's the one form of alone time your brain doesn't run from. Most people can't sit alone in a parked car for 20 minutes without reaching for their phone. Put that same person on a bike for 20 minutes and they'll come back looking calmer, not more restless. Here's what's worth sitting with. Riders always describe solo rides the same way: peaceful, clearing, freeing. None of that is wrong. But those words are only describing the surface of what's actually happening underneath. Being truly alone flips something in your emotions that quiet company never quite manages. Choosing it, on purpose, is what makes your brain reward you for it. Riding alone forces your mind to carry the whole load with nobody to lean on, and that's exactly what sharpens it. Real brain scans back this up, measured on riders who were genuinely on their own.
And the structure of writing keeps solo time from turning into the kind of overthinking that ruins alone time for most people. None of that has anything to do with freedom or wind or adrenaline. It has to do with what happens the moment you take everyone else out of the equation. Maybe that's the part solo writers have always felt and never had the words for. It was never really about being alone. It was about what being alone actually does to you.